Hi everyone, welcome to my class. My name is Nicole. I'm here at the Lotus Tree Studio. For today's class, we're going to need 1 bolster and 2 blocks. If you don't have it, no worries. I will set up some modifications to help you out. Today's class, we're going to be doing a slow flow. We'll start off standing, and then we're just going to make our way down to the mat. But with that, let's just start off sitting cross-legged. Close our eyes. Just start to check in. Take a few deep breaths. We can bring one hand to our heart, one hand to our stomach. Just noticing how we're feeling. If the breath is fast and choppy, slow it down. Good. And from here, we're going to just come up to a nice stand, easy position. Feet are about hip-width distance apart. We're going to inhale our arms up. Deep breath in. Good. And exhale, press the air down and away, clearing our space. Just do that one more time. Deep breath in. Good. Pressing the air down and away. One more time. Deep breath up. Good. This time we're going to drop our left hand between our shoulder blades. Right hand comes on that left elbow. And we're just going to make some big trunk rotations here. Rotating at the hips. Good. These can go as slow or as small or big as you want. Good. Sweetly switching directions. Good. Meeting back at the top here. We're going to press our hands down. Good. Deep breath in. Opposite hand, so our right hand's going to drop between our shoulder blades. Our left hand will come on our right elbow, and we're just going to repeat that on the other side. Nice big circles. Good. Let's switch directions. Good. Meeting back at the top, arms come up. Exhale, pressing them back down. And if you're not already at the top of your mat, you can come to the top. We're going to cross our right foot over our left. So pinky sides of the toes are touching. Good. And our right hand's going to reach all the way up and over, opening up the side body here. Nice deep breaths. Good. Sweetly bring both hands out to the side so that we're in a T-shaped position. Start to bring the thumbs together behind us. We're opening up the chest. Nice, deep, slow breaths. Good. Gently rotating the hands to the hips. We're gently going to fold forward. You're going to feel the front knee, the right knee bend, and the stretch is going to come into the back of the left hamstring all the way to the outer hip. If we're really tight here, you can grab your blocks and hold on to them. If not, you can reach down towards the floor. And if you're not at either of those positions, hands can just be resting nice and easy on the top of the knee. Good. Releasing head and neck. Breathing into that outer IT band, the left hip. Might be a little stiff for some people. Good. A few more breaths here. With each exhale, we may find that our vertebrae relaxes a little more, the hamstrings have a little more to give and relax, therefore sinking deeper into the pose. And let's stay here for 2 more deep breaths. A good little trick to use in inhaling and count to 3, and then pausing for 3, and then exhaling for 3 counts. And sweetly bring the hands to the top of the knee, rolling up 1 vertebrae at a time. Rolling the shoulders up and down. Good. So bringing all of our weight into that left foot, we're going to balance on our left leg. The right leg is going to reach behind us. We're going to find the ankle or the foot. Good. Coming into a nice quad stretch. You might even feel it in your hip flexor if you're really tight. And often we always want to arch our spine in this pose, but I encourage you to tuck the tailbone, squeeze the abs. And if you're having trouble balancing, you can pick a spot on the floor or the wall. You can hold your stomach. Whatever little tip or trick that you might have to help keep your balance. Soften the face muscles. Good, and from here, we're gently going to release our grip on our right foot, and we're going to step it right back behind us, getting ready for a forward-facing triangle. So there's a micro bend in the front knee. Our hips are facing forward. Good, we're just going to take a deep breath in, and then exhale, slowly start to tilt at the pelvis forward. Good, reaching. Again, if the hamstrings are really tight, this is where our blocks can come into play. You can place one on either side of the foot. Good. If not, if you can reach the floor, that's great too. So again, the stretch is coming right into that left hamstring. And we keep a micro bend in the knee to avoid any pulling. Again, it's also natural for the hips to want to flare off on a 45, but I encourage you to bring them forward so that they're facing the front of our mat. Two more deep breaths. Good time to practice that count again. So inhale, 2, 3, pause, 2, 3, and exhale out, 2, 3. Good. Let's do that one more time. Relaxing the shoulders. Breathing into that hamstring. It might even creep into the calf. That's only if our muscles are really tight here. Good. So moving to standing splits, we're going to bend the front left knee. Both hands come flat on the floor. If you know that you struggle with balance, again, have those blocks ready for you. Have them placed out in front of you. Good, and then we're going to take a deep breath in. Start to lift the back leg. Good, and then exhale, fold forward, standing split. Again, aiming to keep our hips nice and square. We'll be tempted to roll that right hip open, but face it forward, square them off. Good, we won't stay here for long. And with that, let's bring our big toes touching on the mat. Good, release head and neck. Gently rolling up one vertebrae at a time. Beautiful, so let's do that sequence again on the other side now. So this time our left foot is going to cross over our right. Pinky toes will be touching on the mat. Good. This time we'll bring our left hand all the way up, reaching it over. Let's spiral our hearts up towards the ceiling here, really opening up the side body. This pose is great if you're a side sleeper. Gets lots when we're sleeping on it for 8 hours, or for some of us less a night. it gets really compressed and tight, so this is a nice way to open things all back up again. Good. Gently, let's bring both hands so that they're shaped in a T parallel to the floor. We can start to reach our thumbs behind us. Good. Breathing in through the nose and out. From here, rotating the hands onto the hips. Deep breath in. Then exhale, gently start to fold forward, hinging at the hips. Again, having those blocks nearby if you can't quite reach the mat. So our breath is using the outer hip, the IT band, even the hamstring to help release. Breathing nice and deep. Letting your neck and head relax. Softening the eyes. And then just really taking notice to what's going on in our bodies. Noticing if we need to send the breath to certain areas, or maybe we're holding on to tension if the pose is feeling a little intense. Stay here for a few more breaths, seeing if we can inch our way just a little bit closer to the floor with our hands. If not, no big deal. Good. 2 more breaths. In through the nose. Pause. And out through the nose. Good. And with that, gently bring the hands to the top of the left thigh. Start to roll up one vertebrae at a time. So we're going to balance on our right foot this time. So press the right toes into the mat. Start to lift the left leg, finding the back of the foot or maybe even the ankle. Again, tucking that tailbone, squeezing our abdominals. From here, feeling the nice, beautiful stretch in the quad, maybe even sneaking into that hip flexor. Good. If you start to feel your spine arching, tuck that tailbone under again, finding that spot on the floor to stare at. If things are feeling a little wobbly, and if your ankles are feeling wobbly, that's totally normal. If you fall out of the pose, just come on right back. Good, and carefully releasing that back foot and stepping it back behind us, having the feet about hip-width distance apart. Both legs are straight with the front knee having a micro bend in it. We're going to move into that forward-facing triangle. Hips will stay square. Deep breath in. Good. Exhale, start to fold forward. If you need to, having those blocks on either side of the front foot. Just slowly easing into the pose. A few more breaths. Releasing those hamstrings. They can get so tight, whether we're sitting all day or living an active lifestyle. Regardless, those hamstrings do tighten up on us. Again, if you notice the left hip start to open up on a 45, Bring it back forward, square the hips off to the front of our yoga mats. Good. Using this next pose to test our little bit of a wild side. So we'll get ready for standing splits. If you need the blocks, move them about a foot in front of that right foot. And you can adjust them either way you need to. And bending the front knee. Good. Start to lift the back leg, deep breath in. And then exhale, keeping the feet or the hips squared, fold forward into standing splits. Good. Don't worry, we won't stay here for too long. Good. Gently releasing the foot down so that the big toes meet on the mat. Releasing neck and head. Good. And from here, just gently walk your feet about hip-width distance apart. We're going to stay down here, moving into our forward fold. So to readjust, inhale up onto the fingertips or the blocks, straighten the flat back. Good. Deep breath in. Then exhale, bend the knees, round the spine, release our neck and head. Sending lots of love into those hamstrings today. To let go, we can nod the head yes, shake the head no. Just allowing the neck and spine to release. If we're feeling really tight here in the hamstrings and they start talking to us, we can definitely come up out of the pose a little bit. If not, you can join me, just releasing forward. Sometimes I just like to sway the hips back and forth. Just helps to release, and it gives us peace of mind that we're never stuck in a yoga pose. So often we think we can't move once we get into our pose, but I encourage you to find that sweet spot, find out what works for you and your body. Good. 2 more deep breaths. In through the nose, pause, and out through the nose. Good. From here, we're slowly going to heel toe the feet out just a little bit wider than the width of our yoga mat, and we're going to sink into a yogi squat. So take your time here. If you need a bolster or a block to set underneath your butt, you may. Good. Bending the knees, can lower the hips down onto the yoga blocks or a bolster, whatever you have. Good. Hands come into a namaste position, thumbs pressing into our hearts. Good. Just breathe and relax. I always like to ease into our yoga poses. We can always come deeper if we go too deep right off the bat. Sometimes our bodies might not appreciate that, or we'll feel the need to get out of the pose sooner than what we actually need to. So right now I have 2 blocks underneath my hips. I'm feeling ready to remove one. If you want to join me, you can. And gently just allow those hips to open. Deep breaths. Sometimes when we struggle or find a pose that's a little intense for us, we hold our breath. I encourage you to do the opposite. Breathe and release. Good. From here, we'll gently just move any props that we've used out of the way. Good. Lower our hands down onto our mat, and however you get there is fine, but let's all meet in a nice downward facing dog. You can start off by pedaling the heels out, up and down. Good. From here, we're going to move into a runner's lunge. So we're just going to inhale our right leg all the way up to the sky. Again, it's natural to feel that right hip to want to turn out, but rotate it down so that the hips and shoulders are square. Inhale that right foot forward, right between the hands, and we're going to lower our left back knee. If you need help getting your right foot in between your hands, please do so. Good. And we're just going to check in with our body. You might need 2 blocks underneath our hands, framing that right foot. Just allowing the hips and the hip flexors to adjust to this pose. If you need a blanket underneath your back left knee, go ahead and slide it under there for extra joint support. And we're going to transition into a little bit of a twist. So we're going to keep our left hand either planted on the block or the floor. And then leading with the right elbow, we're going to twist the right arm up, opening up the palm, the twist coming from the torso. Good. Staying here, breathing. And if it feels okay for your knee, and you want to go a little bit deeper into this pose, you can start to bend the left knee, reaching that right hand, finding the foot. Good. Twisting and opening up here. Another great stretch for our quads. Soften the body. I like to use our exhales to relax. We can use our inhales to come a little bit deeper into our twist, and then we exhale, release. Good. Can we sweetly let that back leg go, placing it back on the floor nice and gently. We don't want to hurt our foot or our knee. Good. If we're using blocks, slide them up out of the way. And preparing for pigeon, we're going to walk our right foot towards our left hand, lowering the shin and the knee down to the yoga mat. Good. Nice and easy. I'm going to lift my back knee up onto and coming up onto my toes and slide that back knee about 4 to 6 inches back, just a little bit more. It creates some extra space in the hips here. If we're feeling really tight in the hips, you can use a folded blanket or towel or even a block, placing it underneath that right hip. Yogi's choice here. And so with the same caution that we would use into entering a hot tub, let's slowly start to lower into this pose. Finishing with a deep ah. Again, we're going to be here for a good while. We want our body to have the opportunity to relax and ease into this pose. Some props that we can use is our bolster. We can have it underneath our chest, or maybe just even a yoga block to support our forehead. Whatever feels right for you. So often our hips get really tight, and it comes from sitting too much, standing too much, or walking too much. You really can't escape it. So the best thing we can do for ourselves is some good hip openers, just like this one. It's also a good idea to scan our body for any tension. If we're feeling tension in that right hip, we might start curling our toes or clenching our fists. Sometimes we grit our teeth. So if we're feeling any of that in our body, use our breath to let that go. Using each exhale to sink just a little bit deeper into the pose. We're going to stay here for 3 more deep breaths. And if it helps to release, we can inhale through the nose, but then let everything out through the mouth. It allows our body a real sense of release. Also noticing if our mind starts to wander, we can just bring it back by focusing on our breath. Often it helps to think in our mind and say, now I'm breathing in, now I'm breathing out. Good, and with that, let's slowly migrate all the way back up, and we're going to bring our back leg up and around, and stacking our knees and our feet, and we're going to bring all of our weight onto our right hip and start to roll it out. So this is a really similar technique as to foam rolling, but we're just doing it with our body weight. So if it's really intense, you can keep your feet on the floor. If you want a little more, you can bring all of your weight onto that glute and hip. Just making some nice big circles. And it's really more of an art than a science, this technique. You can hold positions, you can lower down onto your forearms. It's sort of one of those things that it hurts so good. If you haven't already, switch directions. Great, and however you get there is fine, but we're going to meet back in a downward facing dog. So palms, spread them nice and wide. Press the hips back. Good, if you need to, you can pedal those heels up and down. From here, let's inhale our left leg all the way up towards the sky, 3-legged dog. Again, squaring off those hips. Good. Sending the left foot forward between the hands. If you need that foot to give it a little help getting there, you can use your hands. If you need blocks underneath for support so you can bring your chest up, go ahead and grab them. We're just going to stay here in our runner's lunge, just allowing our body to adjust to what we've offered it. The back knee is resting firmly on the mat. If you need a blanket or a towel underneath it for extra cushion, please do so. Good. From here, keeping our right hand either on the floor or the block, leading with the left elbow, let's begin to twist to the left and lift that left hand all the way up towards the sky. The rotation comes from our torso. If the twist is ever too much, you can always just come back to runner's lunge. Or if you need a little bit extra, you can start to bend the right knee, the straight leg behind us, bend it, and then reach behind and find the foot or the ankle twisting into an extra little quad stretch. Two more breaths here. Inhaling, twisting a little bit deeper, and then exhale and settling into the twist. Good. And gracefully releasing the back foot, rotating our left hand back onto the outer edge of our left foot so our hips are square and our chest is square back into our runner's lunge. Good. Move any props out of the way that you may have been using. And getting ready for pigeon, let's start to walk the left foot out towards the right hand here. Releasing the shin and the knee down. That left heel sneaks in towards our right hip flexor, and that's great. Sliding our right knee back a little bit, creating lots of space in the hips here. Then with a ton of grace and a deep exhale, let's slowly start to lower down towards our mat. Maybe grabbing that bolster or a block for extra support. Or maybe our hips are feeling nice and open and we can just use our mats and the floor to support us. Knowing that our bodies are not perfectly symmetrical, but that's why we practice yoga, just to bring our bodies a little more into alignment. But knowing that we might have one side that's a little more flexible than the other, and one side that's a little tighter, treating both sides with an equal amount of grace. Using our breath to soften any tension we might be holding on to. Without realizing it, we store a lot of stress in our hips. So by releasing that and letting that go, sometimes unwanted emotions start to arise. Maybe feelings that we've pressed down so deep that we don't want to feel. But when we start to release, we have no choice but to feel them. And that's okay. We're entitled to our feelings, whether they feel right or wrong. The key is just to determine which ones are serving us and which ones we just need to let go of. Let's use our breath to help let go of any feelings that are no longer serving us. Soften the eyes, soften that skin between the eyebrows, unclenching our teeth. Let's stay here for 2 more breaths. Good. Gently press ourselves back up. We're going to bring all of our weight onto the left hip this time. Can we swing that back leg up and around, stacking the knees and the ankles? Bring all of our weight onto that left hip. We can start to make those big circular motions. Again, if this feels good, keep your feet planted on the floor. If you need a little extra, lifting those heels up. getting deep into the fascia, which is our connective tissue. Sometimes it can feel rather intense, but once we're done, it comes with so much bliss. If you haven't already, switch directions. Good. From here, let's just center ourselves, coming into an easy seated position. We're going to move into butterfly, which the soles of the feet come together. If your flexibility is something that you're working on because you're really tight, have the heels a little bit farther away from our pelvis. If you have great flexibility and like the extra challenge, tuck them in nice and close. Either way works. Good. Soften the shoulders, lift the chest, take a deep breath in, and exhale, slowly start to fold forward. If your lower back doesn't give you any issues, feel free to round the spine, lower the forehead. You can even have a block or a bolster ready to support your forehead, or maybe the floor if you're there. If your low back is talking to you, come up to a higher position, keeping the spine nice and long. Either way, you're going to reap benefits from this pose. Again, you may notice your mind start to wander. If it does, bring it back to the breath and come back with kindness towards yourself. So often we feel as if we're doing yoga wrong or meditating wrong if our mind starts to wander. But you're only doing it wrong as if you give up. So if you keep focusing back into our breath, coming back to this moment, coming back to how we're feeling, then that's all that matters. And take ease in knowing that you're doing it right, that there is no perfect way to do yoga. Just as long as we keep trying and give ourselves a lot of grace. And from here, just gently come back up and start to massage the insides of the soles of the feet. Our feet literally walk us everywhere and anywhere we need to go. So why not give them a little extra love and attention? Good. And then from here, let's open up the legs nice and wide, coming into a wide angled forward bend. If the hip flexors are really tight, sometimes it helps to place a folded blanket underneath the hips or even a yoga block. It just helps the pelvis to tilt forward. Good. So from here, again, soften the shoulders. If you're feeling enough stretch, have the hands supporting you. This might be exactly where you need to be. But if you're looking for a little bit of an extra challenge, slowly start to walk the hands forward. Feel the tilting at our pelvis, the chest slowly lowering down towards the mat. If you can't quite make it to the floor, you can have a bolster underneath your chest to lay on, or even have a yoga block to support your forehead. Yogi's choice. And so often people ask me, they're like, how am I supposed to know the difference between doing a yoga pose that hurts and something that I just want to grow and challenge myself with? And so my answer is, you never want to feel any pain when you're doing a yoga pose. There's a difference between feeling a challenge and feeling pain. If the low back is talking, if the inner thighs are maybe screaming, that's our body's way of communicating to us that we need to back up out of the pose, readjust, and take it a little bit slower. But if it feels challenging without any pain, that is a great way to make progression in our yoga practice. And besides, we're here to take care of our bodies, not to injure them. So focus in on the breath. Focus in on what our body is telling us. And we can just progress from there. Let's stay here for 3 more deep breaths. Breathing in through the nose, 2, 3. Pausing, 2, 3. And exhaling, 2, 3. Again, if our minds start to wander, we can sometimes say this inside our heads. Now I'm breathing in. Now I'm breathing out. Using that mantra to bring ourselves right back to this moment. Good, and with that, slowly migrate back up to a seated position. Moving any props out of our way. Slowly start to lower ourselves down to our mats. You can use this time to pull on a pair of fuzzy warm socks or crawl underneath a blanket. Whatever allows you to relax. If the low back is talking, we can work with bent knees, pressing our belly buttons down, and just allowing the low back to release on its own. And then whenever we're ready, gently straightening the legs, palms facing up, and feeling great accomplishment for knowing that we've made it this far. We've made it to our final yoga pose, and therefore the most important yoga pose, where we lie here and allow our bodies to relax and restore and to take in everything we just did. We can start off by softening the skin between our eyebrows, releasing the tongue off the roof of our mouth, unclenching our jaw, allowing the eyes to close, and softening all of our facial muscles. Softening our throat, releasing our shoulders, pressing them into the mat, feeling the weight of our arms. Just relax and let go. Our bellies begin to rise and fall with each and every natural breath. And with those breaths, our lower back just naturally falls closer and closer to our yoga mats. Our entire bodies begin to melt, knowing deep down in our hearts that there's nothing left to do. The hard work is over. Our hips are open and relaxed. Our legs are so heavy, and we're just sinking deep into our yoga mats. Using these next few minutes to completely recharge and to thank our bodies for every single pose it allowed us to do today. Feeling kindness and gratitude throughout our souls. If you have the time, I do encourage you to stay in this pose for as long as possible. If not, we can start to wiggle our toes and our fingers, bringing gentle motion back into our body, reaching our hands overhead, stretching just like cats waking up from an afternoon nap. Bending our knees, rolling over to one side, and then pressing ourselves up into a seated, cross-legged position. Closing our eyes, just cupping our knees with our hands. Let's take a few deep breaths in through the nose. Let's do 2 more just like that. Deep breath in. Last one, deep breath. Bringing our hands to heart center. May the light within me brighten the light within all of you. Thank you so much for joining me. Namaste.